Welcome, everyone. We are back. It is time. It's another podcast. It is brought to you by ClubGG, where you can create poker clubs for free and win hundreds of thousands of dollars in prizes monthly. With that being said, I got to introduce him. Jeff Boski in the house. How are you, Jeff?
It's a pleasure to be here. I know you've had countless legends on the podcast. I finally made it.
We've talked about it. We've played. We've battled live. We've known each other for a long time. Very, very similar in our poker journey, I think, around time-wise starting. Maybe give those a little bit of a background when you got into poker, who you are, what you do. We're going to look at all your socials and YouTubes and all the good stuff, but give me a bit of an overview of yourself and how you got into poker.
Quit my job, dropped out of college in like 2003, right around the time Moneymaker won the main event, and was just inspired by that and just pursued the journey of cash games, tournaments, online, live. Eventually moved to Vegas in 2008. I've been here for 15 years, haven't gone broke yet, haven't scammed anybody, so I consider myself in the 1%.
You say that listen, poker is the greatest thing in the world, right? The people, the stories that you hear, the good, the bad, the ugly. With that being said, as you just sort of framed it, is it fair to say that you've seen a lot in this industry, stuff that you almost don't get surprised at this point by what people do, and maybe tell me about that a little bit. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, not to be too negative, but there's there's a lot of bad actors in any industry, but it does work out well if you are ethical and make good connections and good friendships, and just have trust with a lot of other well-known pros. You kind of get accepted into those circles where, not that I borrow money a lot or anything like that, but if you needed to, you could. But in general, just don't lend money to anybody, because the best thing that can happen is you get paid back. In general, other than them reciprocating that in the future. But yeah, it's a great profession for those that can handle the swings and the highs and lows. And you got to just really love the game, and you have to be able to handle just devastation repeatedly, day in and day out, and chase the glory.
Yeah, and speaking of that, you got in when you originally got in. Is that something? Was it something you thought would just be a hobby? It was kind of fun, or when did you know you would be playing professionally and for a long time?
Yeah, it started as a hobby. I was coming out of high school into college, just playing home games with my friends, just like everybody, and I just did better than most of my friends and just studied hard and just really fell in love with the game and was always excited to play. I don't have the same exact passion as I do now as I did then. It kind of you kind of get withered and old now that we're like 20 years into the game, but we still got that love, and we just approach it in a different way. And glad to have made it this far, and been lucky enough to be in some spots to continue the journey and be my own boss effectively.
And what would you say you enjoy the most so far, looking through your career in poker? You've done YouTube. We'll take a look at that. You stream on Twitch. You've done that for different periods of time, more extensively than others. What is it that you love the most? Live cash, live tournaments, content. What's you as your favorite part about being a professional and what you do?
I'm 99% tournament player, but there's something special about winning a big cash game pot, or just going deep in a live tournament. But just the time and effort that goes into live tournaments compared to the chance of winning or final tabling so slim. I just find it a lot more efficient to play 10, 12 tables online and grind 8 hours on a Sunday. Bigger fields, but a lot more likely chance of going deep and actually final tabling something or winning something. And to be able to do it on Twitch and really capture that moment compared to making a poker vlog where you have to recreate everything, it's just a lot more efficient to win a tournament on Twitch and have the viewers there with you. Just really euphoric moment that's hard to capture, but when you do, it's pretty priceless.
Yeah, the YouTube grind it's not for everyone, and you see some of the guys over the years that have had success. It's hard to stick with it. Have you found you are more active now on YouTube, or do you feel that it's like, is that something that, as you're alluding to with Twitch or some other stuff, it's a lot of work, right? To do it, to film it, then to go. It's not just like you film it and it gets put up. There's editing, there's your own personal touch. Do you have a team? Do you have editors? Do you have people working for you, or do you do most of your stuff?
No, almost 100% of my stuff I edit myself in the most ghetto way possible on my iPhone. I've never learned how to use a proper like editing, Final Cut Pro or anything, which is my own ignorance. I just never done it. It would make things easier, but I'm just set in my ways doing it on my iMovie iPhone app.
Yeah.
and just keeping it raw and real, and just kind of saying, hey, if I can do it, you can do it. I'm filming with my iPhone, no expensive camera, no expensive editing software, and I'm just documenting the journey. But like you said, it's just so many hours of actually filming in the casino and then editing and put it on YouTube. And the biggest problem I had was I'd put every single live tournament I did on YouTube for like the first 5 years. So as you know, that's going to be just a lot of losing, which is not only depressing to have to edit that and relive all those horrible moments, but then the viewers are like, this guy, all he does is lose. But that's the reality. That's how tournaments go. I mean, I could just do the ones where I min cash or final table, which I think I am actually going to do going forward because just the time and effort and people like a happy ending. They like to see the good guy win.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. It's an extra element, I would say, of pressure. Do you ever find yourself on Twitch where you feel like you're like you feel more people are coming on, right? The viewership grows, you see the number, more engagement, it's kind of fun, and you get deep in the tournament, and there's, let's say, randomizer, right? There's a spot where it's like you could shove, you could do this, or maybe the better play. Do you ever find yourself sort of like trying to survive or not taking certain spots because of knowing the equity within to go deeper versus maybe going for the win, like in the moment?
Yeah, I see what you're saying there, but I think in general it's better strategy just always go for it and not fear the backlash of, oh, you should have just folded, bro. Don't 5-bet jam ace king. Of course they have aces. It's just more exciting to go for it, and I have been doing that more and more compared to making the tight fold.
Right.
For the Twitch stream equity and just the luck of just going deep. You got to take big risks to win big prizes.
Yeah.
And I think that's worked out pretty well.
And what's been your most exciting Twitch stream, would you say? Like, was it a win or big buy-in, long stream? What's sort of like a memorable Twitch moment for you?
Yeah, obviously the longer you stream on that given day and the deeper you go into tournament and the bigger the buy-in, it's going to create a bigger viewing audience. It's also good to network. You get the big raids from, the big channels like Razor Edge or Ape Styles or buddies of mine. So it just compounds and you give raids to other people. So they reciprocate that. So it is one big, great community. The biggest stream I ever had, I mean, I've had some pretty decent wins. I recently made day 2 of the Venom, where I played a chip lead pot, but it was set over set on the turn. And I mean, I thought I had the best hand with second set. I was pretty devastated that he turned it in a 3-bet pot with just 200 blind pot. But you always remember the beats more than the big suckouts or big wins. But you gotta cherish the moments and just be grateful we're in this situation.
Yeah, and tell me about your sort of rise within the poker world, because you've been sponsored now. I know you're with the America's Card Room currently. Can you tell me about what it is to be sponsored and when did that happen? How did that come about?
Yeah, I've been with. I was the original ACR Team Pro over 5 years ago. They contacted me to give away a Venom ticket, and they said they'd give me a 530, or not a Venom ticket, $1 million Sunday ticket, 530 or 540. And they said, "Oh, give me a ticket if I just give out a ticket." I was like, "Oh, done deal, free 540." And I remember there was a moment where that could have just been the end of the conversation, but I didn't really play on America's Card Room at the time. And I said, "Who are your team pros? Tell me more about your site." And they said, "We don't have any team pros." And I've never been a team pro, but I was like, "Well, shit, I've had this YouTube channel for about a year. Check it out. If you like it, I can promote ACR on there." And one thing led to another, and here we are. It's been a great journey. Very cool team. I was just in Costa Rica yesterday. I just came back from a trip, which I posted on my Instagram at Jeff Boski Poker. It's like a 4-minute video showing the last day. Me and the whole team went on a boat trip and catamaran to some private islands. Got some fine dining, fresh seafood. Hung out on the beach, and just had a great time with the team. Went to the offices, met all the people that work behind the scenes at ACR, and did a photo shoot, and it was just a great time. And yeah, even though I hate traveling, I'm learning to like it even more, or learning to hate it less, due to these opportunities ACR has given me, especially going to Vietnam for the first time last month, and for the Triton series. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was one of my next questions. I know there was some packages, 100K packages. Phil, obviously a visionary, very generous, great guy. I've known Phil a long time, and he's definitely one of the ones that loves poker the most. Like, he really does embody what it is to be a poker fan, to enjoy it. And I know that was a creative thing. And how was that, man? Because that, it's not every day. Like, looking here too at your Hendon Mob, right? Like, you've played a lot. You played high stakes stuff too. You've grinded a ton, but to go and play like $100,000 internationally, fly, it was like business. You go there and you get to play some. What was it? 25. What was the biggest buy-in you played there? Or
I played a 30, a 20, a 30, and a 50. Those
wow.
That was the 100K right there in 3 tournaments. And then I thought I was done for the trip. And then one day after doing yoga at the resort we were at with all the other high stakes pros, I went to take a shower, and I came out of the shower, and there was a group chat message with Phil saying, "Hey, all team pros it was me, Ape Styles, and Monica who won the packages." He said, "I'm going to put all you guys in the 25K turbo on a free roll, 25% free roll." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I had anything better to do today. I'm in, and I ran well and played good in that, and ended up final tabling it for the biggest score of my career.
Wow. And what was that? How much was that for?
$121,000 for 7th place.
Wow. And what was first prize in that?
600 or 700.
Wow.
6 or 7. Nacho Barbero got second. I remember, and Anna Marquez was at the table too. She got 9th. So it was just a real great way to end the trip. And yeah, I'm just happy to be there and looking forward to the next Triton in Cyprus, which is in a couple 3 weeks or so. We got another competition going on.
Very cool. Yeah, I was there at the last one I saw. I remember there was that they got the brand new hotel there. I've been there a handful of times, maybe 4 or 5 times, and it's gotten better and better. And there's brand new beautiful venue, and that's where that last coin rivet, the Invitational, the pro, right, the 200,000 pro with amateur, a lot of good amateurs in there, of course. But it's a fun event and a beautiful venue. So you will be going to that, or you're saying you're hoping to, because this is a competition you're in the middle of?
Hopefully, yeah. The competition started about 4 weeks ago. It was top 10 MTT scores in terms of multipliers, in terms of buy-ins won live or on America's Card Room. So if you play anything $11 and up, so if you win $110 in an $11 tournament, that's a 10x multiplier.
Wow.
So your top 10 multipliers in terms of buy-ins won. So it doesn't matter the buy-in as long as it's $11. And I'm been first by a wide margin in the MTT segment. I got a goose egg in the heads up segment, and the other 2 segments are social media growth and social media creativity and posting. So it's a wide variety of things we have to just grind out for these 5 weeks, and I've just been on the grind. Just going to Costa Rica this last week was my first vacation. I just grind online and socials 12 to 15 hours a day, because I don't want to get third. Only 2 pros are going to win the 100K package this time. There's 12 of us, and yeah, we're going to find out on May 1st who wins. And yeah, hopefully it's me and another pro that really gives it their all and earns it.
Very cool. And what has been the most rewarding thing in poker for you this through your career? So you said about 20 years, right? You started roughly. I mean, it's been 20.
Yeah, almost 20 years sole income professional. Yeah, 15 in Vegas. Most rewarding thing? That's a good question. I mean, the friendships are really cool, but just like I said, I quit my job and dropped out of college at the same time to pursue poker, so that was a big leap. Just like the leap of packing up all my stuff and moving to Vegas with like 10 grand in my name. But just being my own boss and being responsible for myself as an adult. And although there's a lot of variance in poker, putting in the work and being responsible for my own success in some ways, even though, yeah, tournaments can't really control too much, but just studying and networking and good mental space to not tilt or blow your roll at strip clubs or on gambling or drugs or
It's a litmus test, right? Like, really, to make it through poker, there really are a lot of obstacles thrown at you in a lot of various ways. At times, you don't even know. You might think, oh, it's like starts with one hand of baccarat, or one hand of this, or oh, look, boys, let's go here. you can get pushed into some weird spots and sort of find some addictive type of things for sure. And that is, I think it's a very big stereotype, but it's actually very true. I'm sure we all know people that have got sucked into some pretty nasty vices that happens, right? It really is. It is part of the attributes of a poker player or of a professional gambler is you got to really be able to monitor, I guess the word moderation, limit stuff. It's okay to make a sports bet here and there or whatever, but you just, it's hard. It's easy to get sucked into some bad traps, if that's fair to say. Have you found yourself ever in a spot where you kind of like, wow, maybe I'm getting a little too much, playing a little too much roulette or going out a little too much? I mean, you lived in Vegas for 15 years. You're susceptible to some of those runs.
Yeah, there's a lot of temptation, but just like anything, it's all about the balance. You can't wake up and just eat ice cream. You gotta save that for dessert. You gotta put in that work before you get that reward. And I think if you have a nice balanced routine, I think that's most important to take care of your body, your mind, and your finances, and just be a responsible adult. And like that, I always think of that. You ever seen the movie The Girl Next Door? Came out like 15 years ago.
I don't think I saw it. No, probably maybe. I'm so bad with movie names. Who's in it? It sounds so familiar. I mean, I know the
Timothy Oliphant. I forget. But it's about this hot girl next door that ends up being a prostitute or something.
Okay.
It's like a funny. I don't know. But he says, you got to ask yourself, is the juice worth the squeeze? And I find myself asking myself that every day in so many situations. Like, I got screwed buying this product for $20. Is it worth it to go through the hassle to refund it? The time, the effort. Is the juice worth the squeeze?
I gotta clip that because my wife, who bless her, she's Brazilian, the amazing woman. We just had her second son. She's like literally the best, best thing in the world. Exact thing, right? It's really about the same opportunity cost too, right? It's like exactly right. You get this thing, you want to be on customer support. Do you want to go to the post office, or sometimes you just got to eat it, give it away, do whatever, like let it go, because that's a good point. Your time, it's sort of the same as opportunity cost. Certain things you gotta bite it, move on, and think about yourself, your value, your time as a person, and what you want to do with it. Because it's a lot of times I think people get stuck in these spots of doing things they don't want to do or they shouldn't do, or they could find a different alternative to it. So problem solving, if you will. Yeah,
there's a lot of ways that people can optimize their life monetarily just by paying people to do things that they don't want to do, or paying professionals to do things more efficiently and better than they could do. Like I used to always hate picking up dog poop in my backyard. Turns out there's a company called the Poop Magician that picks up your dog poop for $30 a month. That's worth it to me.
It's. I mean, I went to school, I went to college, graduated, but one of the only things that stands out, or I remember really from it, was like an economics class just about opportunity costs, and it's so obvious. This isn't like a groundbreaking principle, but it's like the example in the textbook was Tiger Woods doesn't mow his lawn, right? It's like exactly like you're saying. You got to find out what your hourly is worth. You got to find out what your time is worth, and then there's probably things that it's not a big deal to clean the bathroom or take out the trash once in a while, but like you don't want to be doing things that are going to take a lot of time away from you that you should, that are just not what you need to be doing. So I feel like poker is such a great metaphor for life, right? You deal with, I say this all the time, winning, losing, how other people's win and lose, success, failure, bankroll management, game selection, reading, all these things. Like there's just so many. I think poker is like a life tool that you get to, and as a professional or someone that does it for a long time, you really get to kind of carve out and see a lot of parallels to real life on things, on what you're doing and how you go about your life. So I think that's I think that is that's something we're pretty lucky that we've gotten in, and we've kind of seen the ups and downs of poker as well, right? Like when you see economic cycles in the world and markets crashing and stuff, it's like same thing in poker. There's a boom, right? Like you were Black Friday, 2011. Did you move out of the country? Did you go somewhere for that afterward, or?
I actually bought my first house 15 days before Black Friday hit, when I was committed to stay in Vegas, far away from the strip, because I was like, I don't play live much. I just play online. So I dumped almost all my money into buying a house, and then they're like, oh, you can't Black Friday. Hey, who's coming to Vancouver? Who's going to Mexico? I'm like, I kind of got a house.
Did you bounce around then? Did you go out of the country visiting friends and go play for periods of time then?
I waited till I think 2013 and 2014 before I said, "Wow, it's really not coming back," and ended up getting 2 6-month furnished apartments in Vancouver, and just left my house vacant, which is I'm paying for that, and then paying for 2,500 a month to grind in Vancouver and pay my taxes still to the U.S. It just felt dirty, and yeah, luckily we have other options now, and I'm happy to be comfortable in Las Vegas with my dogs, my friends, ACR, and all the luxuries that I have grown accustomed to.
And if you were to live anywhere else, where's some place in the world that you just love, that you've traveled, been on tour, wherever that you, or not, just vacation wise?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've heard a lot of good things about Thailand and Mexico. Nice beaches, but somewhat dangerous. Some bad internet problems. Vancouver is great, but expensive once again. I'm pretty happy in Las Vegas for now. It's got pretty much everything I want. It's got the peace of the desert. It's got the chaos of the strip. And when friends come into town to visit, they come to visit me. I don't have to go back to Michigan. I don't have to go anywhere else to hang out with them. And there's plenty of stuff to do. So I think it's a great balance for me living in Las Vegas. So I'm pretty happy here for now. But who knows what the future will bring? I'd definitely like to explore more, and we'll see what happens.
And do you believe, is this poker something you're going to be playing for the next? Like, what would you be doing if you weren't playing poker? And you said you sort of maybe your desire, passion, which is natural. After 20 years, there's times where you're more into it, more not. You said get a little older. It's a little more tiring to maybe travel or play those long sessions online. What else would you maybe think about doing? And do you see yourself playing 10 years from now?
That's a good question. I'd have to just find out what I have a real big passion for. I've thought about some things that are probably not very good monetarily. I thought about, this is going to sound crazy, but being a motivational speaker to get people to stop smoking cigarettes.
Okay.
I think that'd be very rewarding. I don't know how much money I could make from that, but I think it'd make a big difference to the world and to help people. If I could, put together a plan or a step-by-step process in which people could actually successfully quit cigarettes. I think that'd be huge for so many people's lives. I was a smoker for about 8 years, and I know what it's like to be addicted to cigarettes, and it's a drug, man. It's horrible. It's disgusting, and yeah, I think that's just something I thought about. But I'm pretty happy with poker. It's ingrained in our lives. We still have that love for it, even though you can be on a couple month long downswing and you just hate it and you hate losing money. But at the end, it's a great game with infinite possibilities, and every day is different. So it really breaks the monotony of tournaments or cash games.
And you gotta pick a day right now for poker. What's your dream day? You've got some taste of, let's say a weekend. You get to play a high stakes. Go to the cage and buy in for play for a cash game format or a tournament of similar value, like a 10K good tournament, 10K great tournament, or 10K buying great cash game. What's your poison live? What do you choose?
Tournament for sure. My dream would be to win the obviously the World Series of Poker main event, which I'm 1 for 17 in with a min cash. That kind of
Wow.
hurts.
Wow, that's my. It's funny you said my WSOP record is not phenomenal either. That's hard to do. Like that's almost like at your level, your ability, even just like anyone, right? Like if you threw it to like a guy who's like doesn't play poker once a year, they're gonna probably do better than that. So that's kind of obviously running terrible. Probably some crazy, ace king suited at jack, set over sets, bad, but you're also the guy that probably wins it, right? Like you have that type of run, and then you just come in and it just works out. That's how it goes, and it is crazy like that. But that is. I feel, I mean, mine's not great, but that's one of the worst I've heard in terms of cashing. That's pretty brutal. So, and I'm saying that with, as in, I feel good things coming for you because it is such a great tournament. And I know you're a very good player. So that'll be, I'm sure you're looking forward to that. Do you look forward to each year? Like, are you like, this is my year? You're like, man, this has got to stop. And like, I don't even want to go play. How do you approach that side of it?
Well, I think the best advice I've ever given people is when it comes to tournaments, especially live tournaments, you want to be optimistic going in, but you also have to be realistic.
Yes.
Odds are you're just going to lose 100% of your money you put in. 10, 15% of the time, you're going to get double your money. 1% of the time, you might 10x it or more. That's the reality. But you don't want to go in with that attitude like, well, gonna dust off another 1K buy-in. Then I gotta play again tomorrow. There's a 2,500 at Binion's or some shit. It's like, you got to be like almost uh, naive. I guess that's the best word for going into tournaments. Like, yeah, I'm a winner. The like the fake, the universe. I got to put it in the universe, the positivity, but it does work. I mean, you can't go in there miserable. Like, I'd rather stake a guy that's less talented but has a better mindset and is excited about being in Vegas for the first time and playing their first tournament and just experiencing the rush compared to just a withered reg that's just grinding it out, stuck 80K in makeup or some shit. I don't stake people. Don't DM me anybody.
Don't hit the DMs up on that. Yeah. It's fun, but it's a lot of work in itself to account and do. What is your experience with selling action? I know you've done that before. People have a piece. I think you've done on Stake Kings and other places. Do you enjoy when people buy your action? Do you enjoy when others are involved, or do you like to just kind of have your own action if you had to choose?
Yeah, I mean, I really haven't been staked since 2009 as any type of a backing deal, but I have sold it for a few higher buying events on stakings in the past, and I sell just now ACR has in the client where you can sell action just to anybody. You just put it right for the tournament, and it's all handled. There's no vig or anything, and yeah, I just sell half of my Venom action just to give like the Twitch viewers a sweat and everything. And that's actually Venom started yesterday, so it's going on for the next 2 weekends. 2650 Venom PKO. Get in there. I know you played the Venom a few times.
That's good. It's fun. Good runs. Big money up top. It's $1 million plus to first, and maybe even a couple spots get $1 million. So yeah, I hope to get it. I know it's usually over 2 weekends for like 4 starting days. So I'll take a look at that. Was just first one, and now there's Sunday, and then maybe next Thursday, Sunday, or some Friday, Sunday.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Very cool. No, it's fun. Listen, I streamed on Twitch for 5 years, pretty religiously. There is nothing like a deep run in a big tournament with chips. Like it's just like, it's so worth it. All those other times that you min cash or don't cash, and then just to have like, one special run. It is the variance in poker is crazy. How do you approach luck? How do you approach sort of, you mentioned your positive attitude. This type of thing is important. You'd rather have someone who's gung-ho and feeling good, than someone maybe in better and that has a negative attitude or isn't giving their best. Like, how do you sort of deal with, there's big moments like that. You're playing for 600,000-700,000 at first, right? You get 7th, you're excited, but basically you said we lose poker tournaments for a living. If you play tournaments, like it's very rare to actually win. Even on that, you're like, wow, like I'm so close, or one more flip, or how did that your bust out hand? Let's take that for example. How did you bust out?
Yeah, it's always bittersweet, final tabling a tournament and not winning it. Even if maybe if you get second or third, you're a little more happy, but you still were that much closer to winning it all. And that fucking guy beat you. He beat you. You didn't win. You lost, even though you got second. And I've won live tournaments. I've got second in live tournaments. I've chopped them. And it's weird to a non-poker player to be disappointed you won 30 buy-ins or whatever. You're like, oh, you won $18,000. It's like, no, first was 50,000. I lost 32,000.
Yeah.
But you can't really think like that. In terms of luck, you just got to realize, ace or pocket kings versus pocket deuces, that's an 80-20. You're going to lose 20% of the time. That's a lot percent of the time. Ace king to ace queen, you're going to lose, 3 out of 4, or 1 out of 4, 1 out of 3 times. And that's just reality, and it hurts. It seems like ace king to ace queen should be like a 90-10. They're like, oh, you got 3 queens left. Oh no. Oh, they'll get there other ways.
Yeah, it is. It is, and that's how you start realizing too. I think it took me a long time as well, just kind of going through the motions or not understanding what that really means. Because like you see some of these guys, they're like the top couple percent of poker players, right? That they're like really like crushing, and that you realize how much they're studying, how much they put into it, and realizing like they also deal with the same beats and the same hands, but they're finding chips in other spots, right? They're blind on blind game, they're stealing pots, their bet sizing is different than when they're all in ace king ace queen. They're covering a guy, when they flip with 10s to ace queen, they're 4-1 chip advantage by that point, right? So it's like you start realizing and understanding nuances to the game, and I think there's so much ego in poker. It's great to sort of look at what's working, what's not working, and be realistic, right? And understand that people are doing things differently. There is a right way to do stuff. And I just remember for so many years in my career, I'd like same thing. I lose ace, queen, ace, jack. I'm so unlucky. But like I had 8 big blinds. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, all right, like what, and that I think is important to be proactive on studying and working on a game. And sort of my next question, what do you personally do? Are you in the GTO world? Do you do solver stuff? Do you have study groups? Do you watch review final tables? Or do you just play? How do you work on your game?
Yeah, I mean, I've been just immersed in training since back in the day, reading Harrington on Hold'em, Super System, all those books, Card Runners, Poker X Factor, every training site, just trying to absorb as much as I can. BBZ, I've been an affiliate for Raise Your Edge for many years. Love their site. Big shout out to Ben CB, great guy. And yeah, just always staying immersed in the information and the content, and just thinking about lines and sizings, and paying attention to tells, timing, and sizing. Timing and sizing, two most important tells, live or online, and just trying to get better every day, because there's always different ways to look at hands and ways to learn, and just things to take away, and it's just so hard to implement them, and always think about all the variables in a given hand and the history. That's what makes it great. It's not a simple game, and your decisions are gambling, and that's, if everybody played perfect, no one would win, and that's why it's poker. It's not chess. It gives people the hope, even if they're a less talented player, to win.
Yeah, no, it's well said. It is a beautiful game, and there is, I think part of it as well. You start, as you are more into this, you deal more with real world variants, right? Like you get a fender bender, or something happens that Black Friday happens, or there's a lot of examples. But I think that the markets drop, or if you're in crypto at all, right? Like the swings are pretty crazy. But I feel like poker players are able to sort of withstand and understand, grasp variance, and like things like you just kind of shrug it off. Or I think it makes you stronger, right? People in the stock markets are crashing, they're losing their mind. Like it's like they don't even think like how, like they literally have nervous breakdowns where crypto, if you have some crypto holdings and it goes down 40%, and you're just kind of like, all right, like like you just don't. I feel like we do better with understanding volatility and variance. If anything, I think that's a huge skill set in poker that you sort of deal with and learn pretty fast. Do you have any examples with that?
Yeah, I was actually going to mention that like 5 minutes ago when you brought something up, how poker players have thicker skin when it comes to financial devastation, or just like oh, I got screwed out of a $20 purchase. Oh well, you're not going to cry about it. It's over. You lost.
Yeah.
Or even if you're not filthy rich, the paying $2 for 3 bananas compared to, oh, it's $1 for 3 bananas at this other store. It's not a big deal. It's just not worth the sweat. And like you said, taking crypto losses or stock market losses, we're just more used to loss and the emotions that come with it than the average person, and we're looser with money in a lot of aspects compared to people with normal 9 to 5s. Like, they're scared to loan a coworker $100 because they're like, oh, I might never get it back, or they don't want to pay $100 for a nice steak dinner because it's just not worth it, when they can just go to they can just make their own steak at home, or they can go to Denny's or Applebee's.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
we like to value money a bit for the pleasure, or just not having the stress of it.
It's weird though, because it's also, it's hard to explain that. Like I feel the same. It's like certain things you're just more splashy on, but at the same time, I think that you learn to respect money as well, right? But it's different stages, different. I remember being in college and winning a tournament for a couple grand, and just like buying a plasma TV, right? At the time, like you had a 6K bankroll and 4K is going to the 42-inch for the wall. But like, so, but at the same time too, it's certain things you've learned, and you respect money more, but you're also, that's a good way to put it, desensitized. Yeah, you go to a dinner, you're not like checking the menu price, you're not checking the bill, you tip a little more or whatever, right? You're just a little like more cavalier with money. But I do think the poker player mentality, gambler mentality it's hard, like the credit card roulettes, right? I'm sure you've done a lot of those. They're fun, right? You go to a dinner, you got 6 guys, someone just does the bill. It's a fun aspect. The equity's the equity. But if you do that with like I don't want to say regular, if you do that with like a group of like just, go out the couples that are not poker related, and you were to do credit card roulette, like they would freak out, right? Like, it's just like, it's like not really something that is it's hard to like comprehend how that is even, assuming you're going to go over numerous times, like it'll kind of work out, or it is what it is. But, like, it's just funny to see these social situations that like, you got to be careful, because it is definitely a different type of, it's completely separate worlds, really, what poker gambling is from just everyday normal, jobs and people that do things. I think we're almost like, it also becomes people judge poker players a little bit, I feel, but then you also are like the most interesting person at the table. You'll be at a dinner somewhere and like, you're like, oh, what do you do, this and that? And it goes from like, wow, that's kind of like shady or weird, but like, they just like fascinated, like if you say I'm a professional poker player, I think the negative connotations have sort of started to drop a bit. And now there's like this chess, Miss Botez and these influencers. It's becoming a little more mainstream and less taboo, I feel like, but still I do feel a bit like poker gets judged a bit. Do you feel that way? How do you feel people perceive you as a professional gambler?
Yeah, a common from a non-poker player's perspective, the most common thing people say are, "Oh, are you good?" And it's like, "Well, I kind of have to be, or else I'd be out of money." Not to brag or whatever, but I have to be better than the average. Plus, I have to be able to beat the rake and the travel and the expenses and taxes. So yeah, I have to be very good to sustain. Actually, a good conversation came up. I was playing a Win 400, and they were trying to like some recreationals were talking about, oh, look at all these professionals around us, and they're like, what does it mean to be a professional poker player? How does one justify that? Can anybody just say I'm a professional? And they'd ask the other pros of the table, what does it mean? And then they asked me, and I said, it's just if your sole income is poker and you sustain a living from poker, then you're a professional poker player. You might have losing years, you might have winning years, but if that's your only job and you're paying taxes on it, you're making enough money to live your life, then you are a professional. And at least for a year. I mean, I guess minimum 1 year time frame.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to explain. I want to ask about live poker, and this is I'm gonna actually gotta ask the team. We got to make something up here on the graph on guests that play poker, because it's not a only poker podcast, but for poker players, I think it's in the 94.5% of the first ever Hendon Mob score is a final table, which maybe has something to do with that. It's just bizarre. Like, honestly, if you go look at it, it's like every time. Now, of course, you could have played before, right? Not cash, because it won't show you didn't cash, but the actual cash, not 13th, not 51st. The first cash is a final table. Do you remember this tournament? Was this tell me about this, your first ever live tournament in Indiana of all places? What the connection there?
Yeah, just did a road trip with my friend Bates from Ohio to Indiana for this circuit event and a couple other events. Stayed together in second place in that's Sandler 1980 back on Stars back in the day. And Mark Smith, that's Mark Pegasus Smith. He's a circuit legend. Nick Gugiagi, or Nick G, you might know him. He was there too. Yeah, I mean, 15 years ago, but I can still remember it like it was yesterday. Yeah, I think there is some correlation with running hot in the beginning and going for it, but that can also be, it can go both ways. If you run real bad and you're real talented, you could just never play poker again. But if you run good in the beginning, it could be your downfall, where you get a false sense of confidence, where you're like, "Oh, this shit's easy." Yeah, like I told this to wasn't really accurate, but I told this to Rampage Poker right after he got his first like 6-figure score. I said, "Hey man, don't chase the dragon. Don't keep playing higher. This is going to end poorly. Just take the profits. Quit while you're ahead." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I get what you're saying, but no, I'm gonna keep going." I was like, "All right, good luck." And he's done great. I'm happy for him. I like Rampage a lot, but I think there's something to be said of just the amount of pain compared to the pleasure on the live tournament grind, especially the circuit grind, the traveling. Man, I couldn't do that. That's just grueling, and that's why they call it a grind. But if you truly love it, I guess, like they say, if you love your job, you don't work a day in a life. But bubbling live tournaments left and right, and just traveling for days to go to Indiana or North Carolina or Florida, and just my hat's off to those guys. They chase those circuit rings, and
I think I agree. I think it really is about different stages or times in your life too, right? Like, it's like, how old are you? 35, 34 years?
39 now.
39. Okay. So I'm 36. Like, I have 2 kids now. you've said you got a house, you settled down some, you've done it, like you've traveled. I remember that was some of the most fun times though. You're 20, 21, 22, 25, even 28, 30. It's like, and you maybe have less responsibilities. You might not be in a relationship, not married, no kids, or whatever it may be. Like it's a little easier and it's kind of fun, right? It's just like a stage of like not a responsibility, no, run around. But then once you buy a house, like, all right, I'm paying this a month, I'm doing this, I got this responsibility, I got all these things. And then to just like go on the road, which, you're out of your routine, you care maybe more about your diet, fitness, all these things, right? Whereas like when you're 23, 24, 25, just kind of like, hey, I'm going to wing it. I'm going to explore the world. It's sort of like backpacking in a way, right? You go to new cities, you're with buddies, you're partying some. It's, I think it's part of the experience. And I think it's all situational. You do see a lot of poker players sort of around, I'd say mid 30s, sort of tear off, stop, right? Like either have kids or they do something else. So, I mean, how many, like, there are people though are you still close with people that you've been with poker for 20 years ago? Like, would you say there's people they started the game with, or is it sort of teetering off?
Yeah, you lose a lot of friendships over the years. Black Friday definitely ruined a lot of friendships. And it's nice to see all the old school legends like during the World Series, but other than that, you don't really talk to them. You might see a happy birthday on your Facebook, but it's kind of sad that we don't maintain these friendships more. Or as you get older, you just don't have enough time. Like you said, you got a wife and kids. How much time do you have to call, Joe from the pool hall and see how he's doing?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. It really is true. Yeah, and then you have friends that start having 2, 3, 4 kids, and then you start wondering, like, wow, it's like it's just it is hard. Do you have a hard time saying no? Like, do you have a hard time with responsibilities and with so many social events, so little time? Like guys want to go do this, but you want to go play a tournament the next day or be rested. Do you find a hard time to say no, or do you feel like you have a pretty good control of your schedule and do what you want?
That's a good question. I don't know if you meant it this way, but I would say that in general, if someone invites you to a party or says, "Hey, come to this tournament, go travel the circuit with us," it's always easier for me to say no because it just takes so much effort and time and packing and flights and shit,
Yeah.
or just going to the strip where I'm just feeling lazy. But I found it's better just to do it, even if you think it's not going to be that much fun, or you don't really want to go to this restaurant, or you don't know the group of people. It's always better to get that experience and find out than regret not finding out.
I
So just go for it. You know.
I do. I'm a big believer in that too. It's just it is one of those things, and I like to reference Bill Perkins' Die with Zero book, right? It's about different parts of your life and pockets, because yeah, you can't go hell skiing when you're 80. You can't do certain things that's like, oh, like a buddy's like, oh, let's go on a cruise or let's go do this, and then it's like, okay, but no, and then all of a sudden, yeah, your buddy's got wife's pregnant, or they're getting married, or this is happening, or his job, he can't leave at this time. So I think that's a good way of saying that too. A lot of time, the power of now, right? Just if you're close or you think it could be, maybe just go do it. You don't know what's going to be ahead or what you'll be able to what's going to be on your plate moving in the future. So yeah, that's good advice. And what would be someone starts today? They're watching, like, wow, they look at your YouTube, Twitch, they see you've done it, you've made a living for 20 years. Because the poker landscape today is much different, obviously, just like anything. If you're trading bonds, stocks, real estate, things change. What you were, where yourself 20 years ago into poker and what you understand now, what would be your advice to someone today looking to maybe dive in to make poker either full-time or part-time for professional or income to make a living? Advice.
I always say that you have to have just extreme passion and a very thick skin, a strong will and stomach to handle the swings. And odds are you're going to fail because you're just not going to have what it takes to be, sustainable professional, whatever income level that might be. Say, as a baseline, 50,000 a year to survive after taxes. Going to be pretty tough. It depends if you're playing online cash, online tournaments, live tournaments. In general, I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend that you play for fun with your friends or go to the occasional tournament. Like I said, it's all about the balance. I would recommend you strive to be the best at your actual occupation, whether it's an accountant, a lawyer, a doctor, a fireman. Just try to climb the ladder and do whatever you can to become the best at that, as long as you still love that, and just sprinkle in poker on the side. If you win a little, you lose a little, that's fine. It's a good uh, it's a good thing to have in addition to your normal career, but I wouldn't recommend it as a main source of income because most people just can't handle the swings.
That's well said. It would be interesting to know. One thing as technology gets crazier with tracking and statistics and all that, it'd be interesting to know like if there was a way to like know your real time, your life EV, and maybe you wouldn't want to know, right? Because it would just be like, but isn't it kind of? You ever think about that? Like, man, like I've played so much poker. I wonder what my actual EV is like across the board, live, online, with tournaments and stuff. And it's just it's one of those things I think about a lot where it's so interesting because it's such a results oriented game. You know, my wife doesn't care if I lose kings to ace deuce off, blind on blind for whatever, right? It's like, did you win? What happened? This type of thing. Like it just, the results are so paramount, right? That's what matters. And how do you think about this ever? Do you think about the EVs and all that, or do you just kind of know it balances out?
Do you mean if there was some sort of tracker on every hour you've ever played?
Yeah, like you could just know like your lifetime, like plus or minus, like it was like a like I think that'd be kind of cool. But like maybe you wouldn't want to know. You know, it might. Like, the funny part is, I would say like the players, the people, I would say 97% of poker players think they're running below EV, right?
Oh, of course, I run so
hilarious.
fast.
Yeah.
All these guys run better than me. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were going a different direction with that, like your life EV if you wouldn't have gone towards poker. Maybe
That
Jeff Gross would have been working at Tesla, right hand man at SpaceX, or you cured some disease and you're one of the greatest doctors in the world. Maybe you had the potential to do that, and maybe you will in a different simulation, a different lifetime. But
we're young, brother. We're young. It could all those and more. At 36, we got some more meat on the bone. But I agree with that. I do think about that too, because that is the thing about zero-sum game poker. It's like, oh, like someone wins, someone loses. What are you giving back? There's all this talk, but I also like see a completely different on that, right? Like even yourself and me, in the sense of we're more like content creators as well, right? We've done a lot of time in YouTube. Look how many people have seen that. Maybe you've inspired people through Twitch or YouTube or otherwise, right? So it's like, I think you actually are providing a lot of value to people that maybe aspirationally or just entertainment wise, and again, you could say, well, what if you're a poker player and you don't do any content? Yeah, I mean, still like you're learning stuff, you're contributing things, maybe, there's a lot of different things, but I think that's one thing that is not correct in poker, where people are always like, oh, like you're not giving anything back or you're not contributing anything to society. So I disagree, at least personally. And I would say, I think like I would say that for you as well, if you feel that way at all, because like I think you do give a lot. You're giving a lot of time, effort, and entertainment.
Yeah, I used to always think about that when I was pumping out a few vlogs every week. I was like, man, this is so much work and effort. I really don't want to do this. What's the point? I'm just losing another tournament. I'm just losing another $400. But then you see the comments, you see the views, and you think, sure, it took me 10 hours to edit this, but look at how many hours of enjoyment people got because people chose to watch this because they want to see what happens. They like the journey. And so you are making a difference in the world. And on like a more philosophical scale, I've been thinking about interactions with people. And like when I went to Vietnam or just dealing with just people I don't know, it's pretty simple. Like you be nice to people, they're probably going to be nice to you. You be shitty to people, you give off bad energy, they're going to feel that too. And I wonder, like, in the afterlife or whatever, if you get to meet all these people or they give you how they viewed you. Like, have you watched Seinfeld? Did you see the last episode of Seinfeld?
Yeah.
Where they're on a stand and it's like everybody that interacted with, they're like sharing their crazy experience, like awkward interaction with Jerry or George. I wonder if it's like that, where you just get to see their emotions of how they viewed you. And it's like, yeah, I ran into Jeff. I was about to cross the street and he gunned it and almost hit me with his car. Like, what an asshole.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, I was crossing the street and I almost fell in a puddle, but he caught me. What a great guy. And he never said anything, said, have a great day. And I think just, doing that, it feels good in the moment. And it's got to be worth some extra points in the future if there is such a thing.
For sure. Yeah. No, I mean, I start thinking more about those things too as you get a little older. It is interesting. It's interesting to start thinking about the future. But what about you? What is your dream future coming up here? Do you want to have kids? you know, are you look do you have any sort of overall views on what is to you the ideal situation? Like, are you looking to start a family? Do you enjoy just having your freedom?
Yeah, no, I've never been a big fan of marriage or kids. I know it's a great thing for some people. I know it's, absolute hell for other people. I've seen so many friends go through divorces. Actually,
Yeah,
Andy Stacks just made a tweet about this yesterday. I responded to where he talked about all the marriage rates and all the population decrease. Elon was talking about how it's a big problem, especially in Asia.
yeah,
Like, we're gonna run out of people at the rate we're going. Where there's just not enough dating. There's not enough people procreating. Where we're declining as a civilization, and it could be a huge problem. But personally, for me, I'd rather have dogs than kids. Uh, there's a lot of dogs that need to be rescued. That is one of my biggest passions. I didn't mention was I've been working with Adopt a Boxer Rescue for many years, and now I work with Henderson Animal Shelter here in Las Vegas, just to raise awareness to adopt, don't shop, because for every dog you buy from a puppy mill, that's a dog at a shelter that they're going to kill because there's no one to rescue them. So just keep that in mind before you buy any animals. Go to the shelter. It's $100. They're great animals, and you can save a life instead of getting little Timmy, that golden retriever puppy. Little Timmy's gonna like the mutt.
yeah,
It's all,
yeah. That's
it's,
no, it's interesting, and it's interesting that's I agree with that, as well as the population thing though is fascinating to me. I just don't understand how, we're up to like 8 billion people. I don't understand how they. I guess the math, right? These guys are smart. They've ran the models, but it does seem kind of like it seems bizarre to think that how it could ever like actually run out of people. You know what I mean? Like, why would we? There's still people being born all the time, and I don't know. I mean, how far ahead are we talking? Like, that doesn't seem like it's something in the next 1,000 years even. But I guess they're saying no, it's more of a problem like in the
yeah,
next.
like immediately, like the numbers where one person does not create one person. Therefore, when they die, there's gonna be zero point 0.8 people on average from that person to reproduce or whatever. I don't know. I'm not an expert on it, but I know Elon Musk is very adamant about it and how it's a huge problem and we have to do something, especially with all the addiction to social media and the social distancing we went through, and all that. It's just decline in population where people can get their release other ways where they don't want to have to deal with relationships and dating and all that hassle and marriage.
I would think there'd be more. I would think that during COVID there'd be more babies made. That's what people would be doing. But I guess at the same time, you also a lot of people learn. When you're cooped up with someone, anyone, your best friend or your, and I, I live in South Florida, but living in like a New York City or anywhere, right? A city apartment. If you got like 2 kids, 1 kid, you can't leave the place. Like, that seems like that is like you should be getting awards if you're able to make it through that, right? Like, that's like I don't care who you are, how happy you are, that is intense, right? You got Zoom calls, you get working from home, your kids there, the crying 2-year-olds, babies, like, yeah, that is I don't know. That to me seems like that seems like that. I guess that makes sense too, right? It's a bit of trials and tribulations on that. And I guess if from the population standpoint, so if a couple has one child, right, that's one child, not two, because there's two
Yeah,
people. But
so that's
also
0.5.
there's a lot of people that just don't have children or aren't married in themselves. So I guess that makes sense why. And it does seem a lot more common. One, like, I'm an only child, but like I felt like that was bizarre. Like, literally all my closest friends, I was the only one. I think literally maybe out of
Brothers and
50
sisters.
people I knew, I didn't know maybe one other person was an only child. And I never thought about it ever until like later someone said, "Hey, you turned out all right for an only child." Like, kind of joking, but I never heard that. I was like, "What does that even mean?" Or I was like, "What is that?" I was like, "Oh," and then it made sense. But what about you? Your brothers, sisters?
Yeah, I just have one sister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
But Adam Carolla said something very similar to that. The best thing you can do to maintain and have a happy marriage is space. The bigger the home, the happier the marriage, just because you're just not all up on each other the whole time. You can go in that room, you can go in that room, you go to work, you do this, but if you're all together all the time too much, it's just going to destroy the relationship. And I felt that way when I had like roommates in the past. I'm just not a guy. I've tried it. I just can't have roommates. As good as friends they are, I just don't like it, and just the proximity. I just like to have my freedom, my space, be responsible for
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah, it's true. It's another. That's what I'm saying. Even like best friends or people who live together, like you're going to be at each other's throats. You're in a not your personal space, and it's if. But that's also why, like, I think this is a good point about like couples. I mean, not only just in the house. It's good to take a guy's trip, take a golf trip, have your ladies weekend or something. Like, yeah, you and then you miss them more too, right? If you're with someone, and of course, they're the couples that they just hold hands 24/7 and they're always with each other and it can work. But yes, I think if you took a modeling of it all and you looked at it and did some reports, I think people that are away and apart, some are going to do better off to stay together and be feeling that sort of passion and desire. For sure. That's a good point. Interesting. I'll have to look into that. Check that out more. Well, who you said it's Adam Carolla?
Yeah, Adam Carolla, he's had a lot of good books. Not Taco Bell material, and in 50 years we'll all be chicks are some of the few books I've ever read in my life. And I just
50
really
years will all be chicks. What's that a reference to?
that came out probably like 15 years ago. It's probably not PC, but it's about the feminization of all men. In 50 years we'll all be chicks. How we're just getting weak as a species, like peanut allergies and all these things that are just like ridiculous, but they're real too. But
Yeah.
just making us more feminine and less masculine.
Right. Saying he wants more MMA, more of the slap competitions. We need more action, is what he's
Maybe
saying.
not, maybe not violence to that degree, but just more manly,
More
grunts.
wilderness, less a
Yeah,
thousand Egyptian thread counts, more Burning Man, more get out there, get after it, survival. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, let's cook some meat over a fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not,
That's
you know,
it's a very interesting. Very, very interesting. Yeah. There's a lot of, I'd say it's an interesting time in the world, right? The COVID, there's just like, it's been a very bizarre few years. There's some other major stuff. I mean, obviously the war, like it's a real war, talk of nuclear stuff, right? This is also not something we've really heard or felt that it was like immediately around, right? We weren't around in the Cold War. But yeah, it's been an interesting few years. What are your plans in the next, as I know you got to get running here as well. So I want to ask you, where can people follow along with you and what are your upcoming plans mostly for the next, say, 2023? What is on your schedule of things you're definitely doing?
okay, you can follow me on Twitter at ICURA Rook. That's my old Poker Stars name, or just type in Jeff Boski and it will come up. And you can find me on Jeff Boski Poker on Instagram, Jeff Boski on Twitch, and Jeff Boski on YouTube. Those are my four major platforms. No TikTok or anything like that. I have been doing this ACR $100,000 competition for Triton Cyprus, which is coming up next month. The competition ends at the end of this month, and it's just social media content growth, a heads up competition, and MTT scores, top 10 scores. I've been grinding hard all month. I hope to win. Only two pros are going. Hopefully, I'm one of them. And you can find me on Twitch almost every night, grinding these tournaments. And follow along on Twitter and Instagram. I post content there daily on Instagram stories. Put a post, picture or something on there, and try to interact with as many people on Twitter. I think it's a great platform. Probably spend too much time on it. Can be kind of addictive and a waste of time, but if you're efficient and you're not just scrolling through mindless shit and you're actually interacting with people, I think it can be a net positive.
Very cool. And I got to ask you the airball and Berkey situation. Do you have any take on it? Do you think it's good, these type of heads up battles, and think it's good for poker? Is it exciting? Are they silly? Do you care? Do you follow it? And do you have any opinion on what's going to happen there? I think I saw Berkey was down a decent amount like yesterday or 2 days ago, some big thing. But do you follow along with that stuff?
Yeah, a little bit, but I think it's just overblown drama, and I think since it isn't even live streamed, I think it takes a lot away from it. Like if you can't even watch it and you're just recreating hands, like on Doug Polk's podcast, I'm not really that interested. I believe it's a real beef or whatever, but you can just create these fake beefs to get clout and publicity and followers and social media. So you just got to be careful who's genuine and who's just doing it for the clicks.
Yeah, I would say, I actually wonder that too. Just like the WWE You know, there's I like Doug. You know, he's polarizing with content stuff, right? But he does like him and Negreanu, these feuds and it's almost like in a way you see them like it's like you wonder if on the side is it like are these guys even just like boys? Is it real? Like I mean I know it. I'm sure it is. Just saying, you start thinking about it, and you're like, what is really going on here? And these heads up wars or battles, and like you know, what I mean, like there's a lot of attention. Like again, they say no press is bad press. Like it's a lot of story, a lot of coverage. Poker news, everyone's talking about it. People like Airball. You know this guy now. Like he's a poker. He's in the poker star. Like Robbie as well. That whole scandal, right? Like she's front and center, winning awards, and like you know, like it's just like it's crazy. It's just crazy how the you know these things can snowball and spiral. And poker loves drama, right? They do. They love a good story, a good scandal, a good thing. So I always wonder about these things, but I haven't followed it too closely. I do see that they were battling. I think Airball had a big day at least. So I don't know how long they're playing or what the deal is, but yeah.
It's a formula that works across all industries. You know, to stay relevant, you got to do something to get people talking about you, good or bad. Like you said, like look at like rappers and hip hop. I mean, they're always wearing outrageous clothes or have crazy jewelry. You think that's just by chance? They want to be as flashy as possible, or you create viral videos. Same thing with YouTube. You know, if you just have boring videos, they're boring videos. You got to do something. But I think it's important to be genuine and never lie to your audience or be fake. And I think they'll really appreciate that deep down. So you don't come off as a fraud or anything. And I think it'll work out as long as you just be yourself. If it was meant to be, it's meant to be. But try not to push the envelope too far, or just try to game the system to get the clicks, because people should see through that.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Jeff Boski in the house. That is what he goes by. What is the name again? Tell us just as we close here. What is that? Where did you come up with that username? Because I always think that's your name, and then and we realize it's not. But what is that from?
Yeah, Boski. I just got it in high school through friends, just kind of shortening my last name. Wait, can you go back to that page?
Which the
Last page was that Twitter? 24,000 followers. Oh wait, what was that other one?
Twitch.
Oh, that's Twitch. Okay, I thought it had like the wrong followers. Okay, that makes sense. You got dark mode on Twitch. You got dark mode that Twitch.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We got yes. It's been a while. I haven't streamed in a year, man. It's crazy. It's like living in the U.S. and with GG, I just I haven't been on for so long. But I'm curious. I'm so out of Twitch at the moment that like I don't know all the there's raids and different things. I'm sure there's new features and cool different stuff going on, or a little bit of it looks different, or some new things on there. So it's been I don't know how much it really changes, but when you're in it every day, probably doesn't feel like much. But it's been literally a year, I think, since I've streamed. So
yeah, pretty normal stuff on Twitch. But just going back to the nickname, I just got it in high school from friends. I think it was a conglomeration of a lot of things, just like shortening my long Polish last name to something like easier to say, I guess. And at the same time, I think The Big Lebowski came out, and his name was Jeffrey Lebowski, the dude.
okay.
So that was a popular movie. And I think the biggest influence was Val Venus. He was a WWF wrestler whose character was a porn star, and he called himself the Big Valboski.
Okay.
And he came out like a towel, and somehow, I don't know, maybe I referenced him a lot, or people I thought he was hilarious, just like his premise of being a porn star wrestler. And it just kind of rubbed off. I mean, number one rule about nicknames is you cannot give yourself a nickname.
That is true. That's definitely true. I think that it never works, right? Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. You can't do it. It doesn't know even if it's the right one, it won't stick. It just doesn't. People don't respect it.
You gotta earn it. You gotta earn it. It's got to be organic. If you don't ever get it, so be it. It could be bad. It could be like humiliating.
That's true. It's not it's a good point too. No nicknames, not necessarily. That's might be just how it should be. That's not bad either. But listen, Jeff, appreciate the time. Good luck on your upcoming challenge. I hope you make it to Cyprus, and I will be seeing you very soon. I'm sure we'll battle at the cage or somewhere in the future. Of course, all the best to you, man, and always fun to watch your content. See you stick into the game and give it your best and keep going, man. I love that you're in 20 years strong doing content across the board and providing a lot of value for those that are in the poker world and more. So I hope everyone gives him a follow across the socials. And yeah, like I said, good luck. Hope you're in Cyprus either way, and we'll chat soon. Appreciate the time.
Thank you, Jeff. Pleasure to have you on. Pleasure to have me on, and it was fun battling you in the cage, and all the stuff we've been through. A lot of similar circles with the social media, Twitch, YouTube. So we're kind of on the same path, and it's good to see that we're still making it. Almost 20 years later in this great game of No Limit Texas Hold'em.
It is a beautiful game. PLO 4 and 5 card. Don't forget as well. We'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week, and another podcast in the books. I hope you guys enjoy it. And of course, please, again, hit the like, check this man out as well. Give him a follow across the board, and you will enjoy. He is really the epitome of a grinder, a poker player. He puts in the time, effort, and gets results. So give him a follow, and we'll see you soon, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate you.